A pretty smart plan to rebuild Woonsocket in the middle of a political race. We'll talk about it. Good evening, State of Mind. Dan Yorke, it's great to have you in. Thanks for spreading the news about this new project. Feedback has been heavy. We'll check your feedback on State of Mind. There's some knucklehead responses that we're going to have for you tonight. We got so much going on. I have very little time to do anything, but I do want to remind you that we got a developing story coming out of the Capitol, and this is the scene earlier this afternoon. It seems that this whole thing has calmed down, but to be honest with you, our production time for the show and real-time discussion of this event precludes any rational analysis. So tomorrow we will cover what's happened in the Capitol on that basis, but we'll certainly talk tonight about what's happened legislatively. Leo Fontaine, the mayor of Woonsocket, is here to talk about the economics of Woonsocket, a rebuild plan that he has, and amidst a political race that I'm sure is fertile ground for conversation. All right, let's go to the rundown. We got a lot going on here. Guess what? The propaganda battle is now shifting very heavily toward the president's side. We'll play some audio that proves it. It is a complete mess. The whole shutdown situation is just got, and the Veterans Memorial, the World War II Memorial, is just a perfect example of it. The random nature of it all is really about what's open, what's closed. I'll talk to you about some of the ironies involved in that. And of course, we've got some other things going on, like the litigation in 38 Studios, where guess what? The people who've been pretty beat up on are now fighting back a little bit. The pit bull thing always rages in Pawtucket, and we have conflicting laws from city to state, and old-time radio, like it used to be, with the Sox teeing off tomorrow at 3:30. No, that's the first pitch. Teeing off is my game. All right, let's get to it. In Washington, as we speak, the president is continuing to lay down the lumber on Republicans. He was in Maryland today at a public event. Here's the headline that is kind of dominating the case. The Los Angeles Times, amongst others, will say Obama blames Boehner for reckless Republican shutdown. This is now the mantra, no doubt. Here's what the president said today.
Veterans, seniors, women, they're all worrying that the services they depend on will be disrupted too. And the worst part is, this time, it's not because of a once-in-a-lifetime recession. This isn't happening because of some financial crisis. It's happening because of a reckless Republican shutdown in Washington.
Oh, man, I mean, they've got their script, and you know what? They've won this battle. The Democrats have won this battle. I've been telling you each and every evening. The Republicans made a move. They had a modest two-pair in their hand, right? They're going to stop the continuing resolution to keep the government open in an effort to defund Obamacare. They took Harry Reid to the brink. He didn't blink. They lose. You got to take your chips back. You got to look at the 2014 race. Now, here's the thing. I mean, these Midwestern and Texan types in the Republican Party, whose constituencies would reelect them if they stood on their head and did really, insane things, are fearless in this. But even they're going to have to go back to the district at some point and say, you know what, this party in its totality is going to be rendered useless if we don't regroup. They weren't wrong to take a run at this, but they're wrong to keep this thing going the way it is, because we get into these situations. It's a mess. It's an absolute mess. It's just very, very difficult to understand, how we're all going to ever get along. This headline, the National Park Service to keep the memorial open to the veterans, and that's a good thing. That's a last-minute decision that's kind of, outside the books a little bit. But, the vets are in the middle of this thing. These 80 and 90-year-old guys who served this country and laid their lives down at risk for us are going down there to try to take one more look at all they went through, and they don't even understand what's happening.
It's upsetting because it's rather childish. There's no end to it.
Why can't they get together and do something? Instead of fighting, they're just fighting one another.
This country isn't used to individuals, shutting things down. We're used to lifting things up.
Yeah, amen. Thank you for your service, gentlemen. What a scene yesterday at that memorial. You got the veterans being wheeled in and walked in and escorted in. You've got a congressman who's yapping off at the park police officer for others to have access while they were making a special consideration for the veterans. You got people with agendas that had posters and screaming bloody murder at each other back and forth. You had others who were saying, can you give the veterans a little bit of peace of mind for their time here at the memorial? It's controlled chaos, not so controlled, and it just gives you a bad taste in your mouth about how we're all dealing with this whole thing. But it all stems from the lack of leadership coming out of Washington. And even this is confusing. I mean, the random nature of it all is my thought here. Here's what's back in business. Last night we were talking about the big game, amongst many big games. If you have a ticket for BC, it's a big game. The BC Army game, we have some video from last year. I can't remember who won this thing. But we were telling you last night that this game was postponed because Army couldn't get there. Well, guess what? The game's back on, and Air Force and Navy are going to be playing. But here's what is going on. Check this out. The games are back on because they're using non-essential government funds. In other words, outside funds are being tapped to get the game operations going. Meanwhile, Army grocery stores on bases are closed. Here's the headline that kind of explains how confusing it all is in Bloomberg.com. Worth a read. Good catch, Rocks. I flipped that one on you. But here's the thing. The Congressional Golf Course is open. The game's on with non-essential funds or non-direct funds or non-federal funds. But the Army can't feed anybody on their bases. And the golf course is open for congressmen to go over and play a little golf, or maybe the president too. He better not dare. He's on a little bit of a roll. He better not dare. Unbelievable. All right, let's come back home. You know, Link Chafee, I have been saying this from the get-go, that while Link Chafee was on record as an opponent of 38 Studios when he was running, he went through the motions when he got the governorship to take the deal that was already approved and underway, the mess that it was. But you know what? It's always been my instinct that he let the ball drop on 38 Studios and didn't do the kind of diligence necessary to give that thing a shot at refinancing or finding some new seed money or equity money. And I think you're going to see some of that evidence coming in now, because here's the Go Local Prob headline on this. Schilling, Stokes, and others file a response to Rhode Island's suit on 38 Studios. They're fighting back. Curt Schilling, the Red Sox player who was in the middle of the blowing the $75 million. He only got 48 of the 75, by the way. He's a defendant. You've got Keith Stokes, who ran the Economic Development Corporation. He's a defendant. And then you got Adler, Pollock, and Sheehan. That's the law firm. And they are whacking back really hard. We have a little graphic here that gives you a little bit of an essence of what's happening. The suit more or less says that Schilling misled Rhode Island on the investment value. And the dispute is whether or not everybody knew that 38 Studios needed additional funds. Well, you know what? They were pretty clear about that. You ask for 75, you get 48. Duh. That's where all the tax credit controversy comes from. That's where some of the dirty dealing could have happened. But the bottom line here is we haven't heard from the defendants much. Now you are through the litigation that's now been exposed to the public records. And what they're saying is, for instance, the law firm says, by way of example, at the express instruction of its ex officio, Governor Lincoln Chafee, the Rhode Island EDC failed to refuse to even speak to, meet with, or engage representatives of 38 Studios in 2011 and 2012 about restructuring the existing debt obligations. In fact, he wouldn't send anybody to a meeting. Link Chafee let that ball drop. Maybe now that the litigants are fighting back, and he knew they would, maybe that's one of the many reasons he decided he couldn't afford to run for re-election. You know what I mean? Indefensible how he laid down on this 38 Studios deal. Not the cause of the problem, but he didn't help it. They got pit bull controversy still raging in Pawtucket. This is a classic. We've got video of a pit bull. This is the pit bull who's actually in question, and the gentleman who's suing the city of Pawtucket will be with us tomorrow night here in studio. The thing about this is that you've got a couple things at work. You've got the General Assembly that's put a law preventing towns from preventing you from having a pit bull, but Pawtucket's already got a law that prevents pit bulls, so you've got them claiming some kind of grandfathered in rights. And then there's the other argument as to whether a community ought to be able to just say, doggone it, we'll make this decision for ourselves, which Pawtucket did. Tomorrow night's conversation. And tomorrow. Kind of weird. with all the night games that we're conditioned to have, the Red Sox are ready to start off against Tampa Bay, who are hot as heck, having won the wild card game to get to the wild card game, 3:30 tomorrow afternoon. So we'll be on at 7:30, repeat at 11:30. If you don't catch us at 7:30, catch us at 11:30. But you can deal with me after a Red Sox win, can't you? It reminds me of those old days when the games were really early and you were in school, and I'm old enough to have a transistor radio this big as my iPhone, and I'd be, Sister Mary Elephant there would be teaching, and I'd have the thing in my ear, just like this little thing here, listening to the ball games until I got a ruler on my knuckles and got in trouble. All right, I'll try to behave as the mayor of Woonsocket comes in to tell us all about how he's going to redevelop the city in the middle of a political battle for his own tenure. Pretty interesting. Stay with us. Leo Fontaine next. Okay, Mayor Fontaine is here from the fair city of Woonsocket. I like your city.
So do I.
I think you do. I would think you do. We'll talk about the politics of the preliminary primary nonpartisan thing coming up next week. And by the way, for those of you running for mayor, you have but minutes to call us to say that you want some equal time on the show if you do, including you, State Representative Lisa Baldelli Hunt. But yesterday, here's the Woonsocket Call headline. I think we have this. Woonsocket Mayor unveils economic development plan, and we actually have copious notes on your plan. Your redevelopment team has come up with a series of suggestions to kick this city in the pants and get it standing straight up.
Yes.
Welcome to the show. Give me a highlight. First of all, there's two major principles that are involved in this whole thing, right? Do we have that? We have two major concepts that maybe I can get the mayor to talk about. Main objectives. This is from your guys to us. New commercial investment and addressing blight in the neighborhoods. Go. You have the floor.
Sure. Basically, we're looking to attract new jobs and attract new investments into the city. We've got to get beyond the Budget Commission and the bare bones 5-year plan that we've put together for the finances. So we're looking at redeveloping new areas using the redevelopment agency. Big piece of that is developing a new corporate office park. Within a stone's throw to our existing office park where CVS is located, we're looking to give some support ability for companies that do business with existing companies such as CVS to be able to locate there, bring in additional jobs, bring in additional tax revenue, and primarily the area that we're looking at right now is the set of a junkyard. It's on the shore of the Blackstone River, so we're looking to develop what we're calling the River's Edge Corporate Park. So that addresses a big part of the jobs from that standpoint. The other two looks that we're looking at are the retail. We've lost a lot of retail. Anybody that's been to Diamond Hill Road sees that there's a lot of stores leaving. After Walmart left, Lowe's left, Staples left. So we're looking to tap into the resources available to us through state legislation that develops what they call a Municipal Economic Development Zone, the MED Zone, which is a great tool that offers a retail establishment to offer half of the sales tax, so they benefit from that. We benefit from it because it comes to us instead of to the state. And lastly, from economic development and job standpoint, is the Landmark Medical Center. We're looking to capitalize on Landmark Medical Center's proposed buyout, offering incentives to medical supported companies, whether they be doctors' offices, medical supply companies, whatever it may be, to locate within that radius around the hospital, bringing more jobs and investment into the city. So that's the jobs and investment. As far as the blight is concerned, we've had a lot of foreclosures and people just walking away from property. So our goal is to go through, identify buildings which we have, city-owned buildings, old schools that have been vacant, a fire station that's been vacant, a municipal incinerator that's been vacant for years. Take those properties, turn them over to our redevelopment agency for them to turn around and sell them for market purposes, then use the revenue that's generated from that, coupled with federal funds through CDBG and others, that we can then go into neighborhoods, clear out abandoned and boarded up properties that are just blighted and bringing down values in the area and helping to raise values. So what it does is it cleans up neighborhoods, it raises values, and we can do it without increasing density, because if we knock down properties and add units in these other buildings that are right now being unused, it's basically a win-win to clean up neighborhoods.
Did you get all that? And Woonsocket shall recover. We're done for the evening. Thank you very much for. Oh, we have more time. Oh, good. Thanks. No, that nicely done. Obviously, you're intimately involved with what's going on here. I could pick like 17 different conversations from that. Let me just choose one. When the Walmarts of the world go out, obviously the North Smithfield project, which is gorgeous up there on the hill off 146A, it's sucked a lot of energy out of you guys. We've got in America to start learning that these box stores that come in and scorch earth and take out retail small business and have for the last couple of decades, who come and go and leave behind their remnants, are not the source of economic turnaround. It's entrepreneurship, it's novelty business, it's different ways to get folks trafficked through your community. You got to stop. Not just you, America's got to stop with the box stores. They're not the long-term answer because they just keep big boxing themselves into oblivion. Yes? No?
They do, but we've got to deal with the reality the way it is. And unfortunately, when Walmart was leaving, and that was actually, wasn't, a lot of people say it was the city that pushed them out. We actually tried working with them. We sold them extra land. They wanted to expand there, but there was a group of neighbors.
They want to be in the new hip place.
No, what happened?
Right?
They actually had a plan to expand. They bought extra land from the city.
Happened?
Neighbors banded together, hired an attorney, dragged them out in court for nearly 2 years, and finally Walmart said, we've had enough, and they moved into North Smithfield.
All right, well, you know, there are nuances to every story, but look, at the end of the game and the beginning of the game, the box store thing is not the thing that's going to take a beautiful city like Woonsocket and turn it around. I want to talk about how nice Woonsocket actually is amidst all of its negative press, problems with financing, state takeovers, blah, 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 and then the politics of it. We'll get it all done next. Stay with us. Leo Fontaine is the mayor of Woonsocket. We're moving fast. You saw some of the footage of him announcing his economic development plan. He just did a great job of giving us 4 minutes on what it really looks like. Look, as a Cumberland guy, as I drive into Woonsocket, it breaks my heart to see this eyesore as you drive down Cumberland Hill Road. When Minden Road splits and you drive down in the city on 122, that empty, disgusting piece of property is kind of a footnote to the city saying, we're in trouble. Is that part of your redevelopment deal?
We've basically labeled that portion of our plan our gateway project, because we've taken 122, which is the south entrance into the city, and the north entrance off from Social Street coming in from Bellingham. Those are our 2 target areas, because we understand that that's the image that presents to the city, so we've designated those as our redevelopment areas.
All right, well, that's good. Listen, you know what? Go downtown and have dinner at Woonsocket. You know, you had that festival last week or 2 weeks ago. I didn't get a chance to hear the block party. Had it go well?
Went awesome. It was
big crowd,
wonderful.
a little bit of a lift-up type of thing. But a Friday or Saturday night Woonsocket is actually very nice, and there's a lot of eclectic nature to downtown. The only problem I have with downtown Woonsocket is just like Pawtucket. I don't know where the hell I'm going.
Yeah.
I mean, you just keep driving in circles and roads, and you know,
I'll
it's
give you
just
a tour.
right. No, I mean, but not really. It's hard. It's not like a square block in New York City. It's like boom, 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 boom. But there really is a lot. There's a lot of good of Woonsocket.
There really is.
Then the damn city is getting credit for, or the damn state will give it credit for.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a better way to put it.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
It's hard to battle back, though, when you get all this negative publicity about not being able to make the budgets, about the school budget 3 years ago going upside down, about the state having to help, about people coming in to run it. It's hard to dig out of this jam.
It is, and I don't want to look like I'm just pointing fingers at the state, but when you look at our budgets from 2007 to now, you look at the revenue sharing, motor vehicle phase out, state education aid, we lost a cumulative $50 million or so in that period of time because the state just cut the funding back. And you wonder how a city can absorb that much. And unfortunately, we had gone a long period of time where we held the line on taxes, and we did that by cutting spending. We consolidated departments, eliminated positions. So when the state started taking that much money away, we didn't have that much fat to cut. And that's a big part of where we ended up. In 2010 was the largest reduction in state education aid. That's basically what pushed us over the edge. The school department ran a massive deficit that year, and it was irrecoverable at that point.
You're in the middle of a political race. I know that you got some heat yesterday for the timing of this economic development plan presentation. You got a primary, which I'm sure you'll survive tomorrow. Tuesday. Lisa Baldelli Hunt, the state rep, is probably going to survive it too, and you two will probably face off in November.
Sure.
That's my guess about the politics. The timing of this was this week because?
Quite honestly, this plan has been in the works, and a big chunk of it had already gone through the redevelopment agency and our planning board. It was on public meetings back in March. Part of it came down to a point where, one, yes, it's an election. We want to make sure that people understand all the work that we've been doing for this time. But two, the other part of it is that during the campaign, you get opponents, and my opponent, Representative Baldelli Hunt, was out claiming that some of these ideas that we were talking about were hers. And you know, she declared her candidacy in May. And we were already working on these things long before that, and we want to make sure that the record is clear, that people know what our vision is, because if they're going to vote for people, they deserve the truth and the ability to assess people on what their ideas are and what their vision is. We can't stick to the status quo of, well, we got a 5-year plan from the Budget Commission. That's baseline. We need to find a way to lift it up.
Listen, a lot of you might be saying, Dan, why are you spending any time on Woonsocket? Because it matters, man, because it's an essential community, and we got to stop being so provincial. And we got to start, people, would you visit downtown Woonsocket? And by the way, when Ms. Baldelli Hunt says she'll come in, you'll come here and talk to her together, right?
I'd be happy to.
When you guys face off in the general.
Anytime.
If that happens.
Anytime.
Short question, and a short answer needed. If somebody wanted to buy a house in Woonsocket, will they ever get their money back now? Will they ever get their value returned?
I think now is a great time to buy. Values are low. You know, that's the one good
Couldn't
side
be
of
lower.
this whole thing.
Get a lot of house for not a lot of money in Woonsocket.
You can
right
buy
now.
beautiful homes in Woonsocket. And great restaurants, great businesses,
and not go in the
stadium
toilet
theater.
with it, and not go into the toilet.
Yeah, no, I think now's
this
the time.
plan's going to turn it all around, huh?
Absolutely.
All right. Good luck on Tuesday.
Thank you very
and
much.
We'll have you back.
Great. Thanks so
You
much,
did a good
Dan.
job in a short period of time explaining the whole thing. I'll do the same when we come back. Stay with us. Oh, you should be behind the scenes here. Let me go, let's get to your state of mind. A Facebook post by Jeff. This is on the AR-15 raffle for the Republican Party that we paid so much attention to yesterday. If they raffled a shotgun, people would be wondering that it's the same type of gun used in the Navy Yard shooting. The objective of the fundraiser is to raise funds, and I'm sure this will be the Rhode Island GOP's most successful to date. Well, you know, Jeff, you know, I'm sure they're going to raise a lot of money. But, you know, penny wise and pound foolish. And by the way, not for, you know, bad shooting trivia, but this gentleman used a version of an AR-15 as well in Navy Yard shooting. Pretty sure of that. You know, whether it's a shotgun or not, you know, I'll check on that. But it doesn't matter. The AR-15 or light guns have been used too much. Here's here's your way of calling me or emailing me, 228-1886 or stateofmind@myRITV.com. I'm out of time. Dan